Hi there. Welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel with my coffee, with my books, with my reviews, and actually with a thunderstorm, I think, on the horizon. I just got a notification that severe thunderstorm warning in your area. So I am just waiting for it to fall so I can just be so incredibly happy. But I do have my coffee and I'm ready to dive into the book of the moment, which is You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. Now, this is an incredibly intense book. It may not be right for everyone, so I really want to caution you to be prepared for what you are in for. I do recommend that if you want to go to Goodreads and look down at one of the first pinned comments, Mr. Andrew Joseph White himself has made a little bit of a content warning for this book. I will not read it all out for you all, but I just want to make you aware that it is there. So we will still read the summary and I'm still going to give you my thoughts, but I didn't feel like it was appropriate for me to just dive in without at least giving you a little bit. And I probably will mention a few of the content warnings just as to what they are. I will try not to dive into graphic details because this book can be very graphic. So, letting you know. Alien meets Midsommar. And I think it's Somar. It's not Midsummer, it's Midsommar. In this chilling debut adult novel from award-winning author Andrew Joseph White about identity, survival, and transformation amidst an alien invasion in rural West Virginia. Festering masses of worms and flies have taken root in dark corners across Appalachia. In exchange for unwavering loyalty and fresh corpses, these hives offer a few struggling humans salvation, a fresh start. It's an offer that none refuse. Crane is grateful. Among his hive followers, Crane has found a chance to transition, to never speak again, to live a life that won't destroy him. He even met Levi, a handsome ex-Marine and brutal killer who treats him like a real man, mostly. But when Levi gets Crane pregnant and the hive demands the child's birth no matter the cost, Crane's desperation to make it stop will drive the community that saved him into a devastating spiral that can only end in blood. You Weren't Meant to Be Human is deeply personal horror, a visceral statement about the lives of marginalized people in a hostile world. Echoing the works of Stephen Graham Jones and Eric LaRocca. So it is horror, queer, LGBT, fiction, adult, sci-fi, and fantasy. So please be aware. I do think the theme within this of, of course, identity and transformation is probably very topical to today's kind of society. So if that's not something that you are interested in listening to or hearing, I understand. But if you are, then I really appreciate it because I think this book is worth it. I love coming into books with open minds to better understand all people. And that is why I enjoy picking up these books that are hard. They have tough conversations. They ask us to think outside of ourselves. And they really want us to be able to see the world from other perspectives. So I hope that you will continue to join me in diving into this. Again, I understand if you don't want to, and that is perfectly fine. Some people just want the entertainment of reading, and this may be the one to skip for that because even though I found it entertaining, I also found it a very good learning moment. But it is about 336 pages in hardcover and it was released on September 9th of 2025. I did read this book while I was in the Smoky Mountains, not in West Virginia, but in Tennessee. So, I mean, when you're over in that area of Appalachia, or Appalachia, I guess it's really kind of depending on how you want to say it. It felt like because I was already kind of in that area, it was kind of a creepy vibe because I was staying in an Airbnb and the area around me had tiny little coffee shops, tiny little shops of all kinds, and it took us about 15 or 20 minutes to get to, just like what I would say a big box store or a McDonald's or what have you. So you had to go through a lot of mountain roads that I tell you, riding in the back seat of my stepfather's SUV, I had to take motion sickness pills to just ride in the back of the car because it was like a roller coaster on these roads. But every time I pick up a book by Andrew Joseph White, I am both terrified and unable to put them down. That I find them rivetingly horrific, often grotesque, but absolutely captivating. And I don't think I can say that enough. I have read several, if not all, of his works. I got Hell Followed With Us right here on my shelf, and I know I read Compound Fracture, and there's one more that I'm blanking on, but anyway, yes, highly recommend, because I just think their work is incredibly important. Lots of body horror in this book, emotional trauma, physical trauma. There is a relationship that could be called consensually non-consensual. Now, if you don't know what that means, that's understandable. I had to kind of look it up because I was not fully aware of what that meant. But in some relationships, people have given consent for things to happen to them non-consensually. And so it can seem very violent and aggressive when it comes to being physical with each other in both a romantic way and other ways as well. And so, again, I'm trying to be respectful of YouTube and the way I phrase things in order to best convey some of the things within this book. But because of the relationship between Crane and Levi, Crane does not want to get pregnant. That is not something on their to-do list or agenda. It is not something they want to happen to them. And accidentally, it happens to them. And so they are pretty much freaking out. They don't want it. They absolutely, that is not what they want. They see themselves as a man, and this does not change that fact, but it's still something they don't want happening to their body. And so at first, Crane runs to he has two best friends, and he runs kind of to their place. They're going to help him figure it out and work it out. But then in the middle of the night, the hive that Crane belongs to comes to get him and bring him home. And that's when his partner, Levi, finds out, or I guess the hive tells him that Crane is pregnant. And Levi is so incredibly angry, like, why weren't you going to tell me sort of thing. Well, Crane is nonverbal, is chosen nonverbal. Supposedly they could speak if they wanted to. However, they have chosen not to speak. And completely understandable, but they are unable to speak for themselves in a lot of different situations. So they try to use a tablet or write things down or just try to convey things through. I don't believe they use sign language at any point either, because I don't remember any points where they are signing anything. So now Crane has to figure out what to do, because even though the hive wants this and they are part of the hive, this is still not something they want to happen to their body. And so it is terrifying for them to kind of be trapped in this situation. So those are some of the things you're going to encounter in this book. Now, you do get that very alien-esque kind of vibe, because everything feels as though the hive is watching you, it's talking in your head, that it can get under your skin. There are these creatures that seem like they're not sentient, but they're like humanoid, but they've also been kind of infested with the hive, these worms. but they're still walking around almost corporeal, but wormy. And so that's why I kind of wanted to try to convey that it is slightly grotesque with, well, a lot of grotesque with some body horror, because they are fairly graphic in their depictions of a lot of these things. So putting that out there for you as well. And because you already have Appalachia being kind of a creepy area, you have this backwoods kind of area that is maybe off the beaten path. People who show up in their area can either become part of the hive, or they can pretty much be food for the hive. It doesn't seem like anybody gets to be anything else but part of the hive or food for the hive. So it is best for most people to join the hive. But I think most people who find them are in a place to want to join, which is really, really strange. It does feel very post-apocalyptic. It just seems as though something has gone on in the world that has really kind of just, I don't want to say burn shit down, but yeah, kind of. Like, it feels like the world beyond this Appalachia area must not be safe or good or something. There's something about it that must be broken. And yes, I think the world is broken, and that is fine. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, the best ways to convey this story. It is a horror story. It is transformation, but it is transformation in some of the hardest ways in a world that is still very against that. So I think that's a good, I guess, thought to keep in mind as you move forward, if you move forward with this book. Now, I would say that it didn't feel as long as maybe some of the other books that I've read, because I think this book is fairly girthy, but it flew by so incredibly quickly. This one said it was 336 pages or somewhere around there, and it felt, it didn't feel that long because it still goes very, very quickly. But yeah, I just feel like this one was longer, but this one goes pretty quickly. There are a couple slow points, I guess I could say, when they're trying to work through things. Crane is trying to work through things, figure things out. I think it was hard for me to read the points where Levi and Crane have that consensually and non-consensual relationship, because I guess I'm not used to being around or in a situation, or know of people who are in those kind of situations, at least in a publicly stating like situation. I don't know of anybody, but that is not to say that it doesn't exist, because apparently there's a term for it and it does exist. So now let's see. Another thing is that Crane is also, he has a chosen mute. He is autistic. And so, of course, there are some certain things that really bother him when it comes to, I think textures will bother him, or maybe sounds will bother him. He doesn't like to be around a lot of people, and he is going through a lot of things. Also, it seems as though it's very hard for him to get his testosterone in order to continue on his transition. However, now the hive kind of wants him to stop taking that, because they don't know, like, the ramifications of taking testosterone while also being pregnant. And of course, I don't either. So that is not something I know anything about. And it is a very heavy topic book. You definitely get the sci-fi with the aliens. You definitely get the fantasy with a lot of things going on. Like I said, there are these entities walking around that are kind of just infested with this hive. There's no real magical elements. When I say fantasy, there's no like dragons or anything. In one of the books, it might have been Hell Followed With Us, it had like angel-like beings in it. So that's almost a fantastical element, but this one didn't quite have that. Now, it does say that this book is an adult debut, because he usually does write more YA. And I can definitely see that it's much more mature content. So just please be aware, if you've read the other three that I think all fall into, I was trying to say find, but I kept also trying to say fall, and so the word was just not working. Fall into the YA category. Promise, I'm going to learn words one day. This one does not. I would not give this to someone under the age of 18, just simply because I think they need to be in a more mentally mature headspace to be able to process all of things going on. Yeah. So just be aware. Now, this individual and they left a comment. They also gave it 5 stars on its release date, so yay for that. Their name is Teru, Teru. They said that for them, they thought this will hit especially hard for anyone with a womb for whom pregnancy has always been something absolutely unwanted, a body horror in itself. It's a horrifying scenario for me, that person. I can't even imagine what it's like for a trans man. Oh wait, now I can. So I like that, like, as hard of a topic as it is a really good opportunity to be able to almost go through that with this character, to try to understand some of the thoughts in their heads as they're trying to process this thing that's happening to their body that's pretty much completely unwanted. Now, again, I do apologize if some of these topics are not aligned with you, but I still think this book is so incredibly good, and it is a very good conversation. So with all of that being said, I am going to go ahead and leave it here. I did try my best to not be as graphic as this book can be, but I also want to tell you that it is worth it if you are ready for it. So I did have to prepare myself just a little bit before reading this book. I wanted to make sure that I was in the right mental headspace to be able to hear this story, or not hear it, but read it, and to go through it with the characters. So I hope that you are when you find that it's the right time for you as well. But with all of that being said, I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this journey. Thank you, and I will see you on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.